Welcome to Celebrating Women in Sports. The Inland Northwest has been at the forefront of championing female athletes, but there's so much that we don't see on the court, field, and more. We begin with current and former Washington State basketball players who went down the path to success without an example.
In a little town in eastern Washington, two women's basketball players are setting an international example.
I wouldn't necessarily say there was someone ahead of me or above me that I was looking up to, other than my family, of course. But I just think there's not enough representation. She's exactly like me. I can do that. If she's doing it, why can't I? So I think that's one of the main reasons why I kind of want to have that impact.
Charlize Leger-Walker from New Zealand and Ula Matuga from Australia are both of Polynesian ancestry.
She comes to Washington State, which is, in tiny little Pullman. Not many people know about it, but now she's got the entire country of New Zealand commenting, go Cougs, or, tuning into as many games as possible.
While last year's team was visiting an elementary school, Charlize and Ula ran into WSU football running backs coach Mark Atuaya's daughter, Perry. The coach tweeted about the impact.
She commented to Ula. She just said, hey, he goes, are you Poly? Which, essentially she's asking, are you Polynesian? And Ula said yes, and Charlize was there too, and she goes, yeah, I am too. To see the light in her eyes, to see the identification of her, seeing herself in them, and then being able to be inspired in that realm was very encouraging for a parent.
It was a big moment for both of us. Obviously, within our culture, there's a lot of stigmas and different stereotypes.
If you look at college athletics, most of the time you see Polynesians in Division I sports, especially it's football. They don't think we can play basketball. And I think it speaks to how important representation is at any level, especially here in a tiny town in the eastern side of Washington. It's always just basketball, and you don't really take a step back and think about how much of an impact that you're having on the community.
Now, Perry may want to be a football player, but she can visualize herself for the future in basketball thanks to women like Charlize and Ula.
When Perry's older, whatever Perry decides to do, I'm sure she's going to be great, and hopefully if it is basketball, fingers crossed, that she's a lot better than Charlize and I. I think that is always the goal for us, is paving the way for the next generation and making sure that things are easier for them in the sense that they can walk into a room and have confidence that they belong and that they are going to be able to succeed at a high level.
Inspiration is contagious, and that's very clear with the increase of female officials. Though seemingly behind the scenes, these women are contributing to sports in a big way. A sight you don't often see, but is becoming more common. Shanice, Sabrina, and Alexandra, all raised playing sports.
I remember being in diapers in the gym, getting thrown in the ball rack and pushed around in the ball cart. Those are some of my very best memories of growing up, is always being in the gym.
All finding their way to officiating.
Looked up when I came home, I needed a summer job.
After I was done, I just wanted a way to stay involved with the game.
One of our friends was officiating there, and he kind of told me it was fun and that he thought I'd be good at it.
No shot, traveling, online.
Each of these ladies named mentors that went before them, but they're each clearing the path further for the ones to come.
When I first started, I think I was just trying to get in myself and just kind of figure out what things were and how to navigate that. And so now it's kind of, you're in a position when you've been here a while to help other people.
However, there's still progress to be made.
I had one instance where I had an old grandpa in an AAU game that told me to go back to the boys' gym when I was early on in my officiating.
You have coaches or parents, or kids even making comments about you being a female, if you're doing a boys' game.
The first call that I made, a man in the crowd said, "This is a man's game." He said, "Let him play." And then the very next incident, he said, "That's a foul." And I was like, is it a man's game? Do you want me to let him play, or should I call the fouls?
All right, play hard, have fun, ladies, have a good game.
Thank you, good luck.
moving past the negativity in order to move forward as a society.
I just learned to shake it off. I had a mom come up to me and say, hey, you're doing a great job. Love you being out here. Ever since then, I kind of just dusted off.
One of the players came up to us in the captain's meeting and just said that it was cool and that they noticed that we had an all-female crew and that she was excited for it. So
I don't really feel like a victim in that situation. I see it as more of an opportunity to show them what a woman can do.
Despite their combined 24 years of experience, the importance of what they're doing each game isn't lost on them.
Anytime I see a strong, powerful woman in sports, I get really inspired by that. And ultimately, it's for me, it's more motivating to be that for somebody else, especially coming from an indigenous background.
anyone can do it, especially younger girls who are looking up and saying, hey, when I'm done with sports in high school or in college, I want to do something. So just being an example for them and just showing them that you can do it too.
Motherhood is something that is often viewed as a hindrance to career or life. One former Gonzaga athlete shows us it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and.
What is Shaniqua going to do next? And I don't think anybody would have predicted what Shaniqua was going to do next.
Shaniqua Nilles turned heads at West Valley High School for basketball and volleyball. She chose hoops for college and stayed close to home at Gonzaga. November of her freshman year on campus at 19 years old, she took a pregnancy test. It was positive.
I loved her immediately the second I found out. I remember walking out and looking up at the NCAA website, like literally typing into the search engine, what happens if a student athlete gets pregnant in college. As soon as I knew I was pregnant, I was happy. You see people that you love and trust and who you also know love and want what's best for you just look so disappointed. That hurt a lot, actually. And I've always wanted to make my people proud. And so it hurt to see people not turn against me, but just look at me like, what are you doing? You're throwing away this opportunity. So that was really, really hard to battle.
Nilles felt as if she was wearing a scarlet letter in what's usually a happy time.
Shame and hush hush, it was never, I would love the opportunity, God and universe willing, to have another pregnancy where I can be celebrated.
Nilles gave birth in June. A week later, she was on the treadmill. And by August, she was back on the court.
Women are so phenomenal. What are our bodies? You see the stats and the stories all the time of the pain threshold that is childbirth. And I think as athletes, we are taught to push our bodies to the max, but that is a completely different level.
She credits her trainers for doing extra research to take proper care of their first pregnant athlete, but the recovery was still difficult. She remembers getting winded during conditioning and wanting to quit the game.
My best friend Jasmine was like, what are you doing? And I said, I quit. I'm done. There's no, what was I thinking? She just grabbed me and she's like, absolutely not. Because everybody else had finished their conditioning. And then her and everybody else slowly finished the reps with me.
Her sport was basketball, but her life was a balancing act.
I haven't met another female athlete who had a child. I have met quite a few male athletes whose partner, girlfriend, wife, etc., had a child. Their body doesn't change. They don't miss out on 9 months of competition. They don't have to change their workouts or, they don't smell something and feel sick, in the locker room or anything. College students are talking about how busy they are or how tired they are. And it's I'm doing that and also having to, I'm trying to figure out how to breastfeed at 20 and also as I'm doing that and freaking out because she's not latching properly, having to remind myself that I got to get her down for bed soon because I have an English test in the morning.
A surely overwhelming experience coupled with travel for games.
Cried every road trip because I missed her.
As for the games in the kennel, Shaniqua's parents still have the same season tickets where they sat with baby Nevaeh, walking her around the concourse when it was nap time.
I would look up during some big games and she'd be just totally fine. I'm I'm kind of playing well here, kid.
After a successful college career came a professional one. Nillis played in Denmark, Germany, and Australia, eventually taking Nevaeh with her overseas.
She still got to see like mommy working and playing and chasing her dreams.
Shaniqua's relationship with the Zags has come full circle as she now works in the basketball office and calls a few games while her parents and Nevaeh watch from the stands. As Nevaeh gets older, Shaniqua wants her to know,
It is your life. You have choice. Choices have consequences. So whatever you choose, be prepared to fight for that. My story is I am a former professional basketball player who played at one of the most elite universities in the country on a full ride basketball scholarship. And most importantly, I'm raising and brought into this world another little girl that's going to somehow in her own way flip, the script on this world. The hometown kid did exactly what she was supposed to do. She just threw a little wrinkle in it to keep it interesting.
While we're talking about the hometown kids, we take it to the high school level, as one of the newly accessible sports for girls is growing rapidly thanks to a local face. We'll be right back. Welcome back. When you think of the first to do something, you usually think it was a pretty long time ago. An area PE coach shows us it was only recently that women got their shot.
I was just a little girl from Walla Walla that wanted to play basketball to the best of her ability.
For Jeannie Helfer, the best of her ability earned her the first female athletic scholarship at Washington State University.
I do not think I realized the significance. I don't even think I knew I was the only one there that had a scholarship, really. There were some people that kind of moved some mountains for me to come here, and I didn't want to let anybody down.
Helfer's scholarship was paid for by the men's coach at the time, George Raveling. Though she was blazing a trail on the Palouse, Jeannie was used to opportunities. She credits her hometown Walla Walla for being ahead of the curve.
I wanted to represent those women. I wanted to represent my background, the Walla Walla, how far ahead they had come and how much those people had to fight, those women had to fight so that we could share gyms and have equal space in gyms, that I didn't want to take that for granted. I'm afraid I probably did.
Helfer notably decided not to join a Title IX lawsuit while she was in college, feeling it would be disrespectful to Coach Raveling, who gave her the scholarship. Years later, she explains understanding from others that she chose what she felt was right.
I apologize. I said, I didn't sign this. And she just gave me a big hug and said, Jeannie, you represented women. And that's how I had to look at it, because I was kind of apologetic for a lot of time, a lot of years, because I was a recipient of what Title IX did, but I didn't support it at the time because of my background. I came under fire a little bit back then, but it was something that I needed to do, and I needed to do it out of respect for someone that I truly was thankful for believing in me and willing to pay out of his pocket for absolutely no benefit at all to him or to his program.
Though she's seen progress in her day, Helfer can easily spot more change that needs to come.
When you look and you find that they're not still equal with their training facilities, that's just a matter. We got to make that right.
It's not lost on the former Coug that the Inland Northwest generally supports women's sports well.
I don't care if it's volleyball, I don't care if it's Bloomsday, I don't care if it's Hoop Fest. The community of Spokane will support you.
Looking back at her journey, gratitude comes to mind.
If I opened the door for them, or if I was an inspiration to them, I'm eternally grateful.
We've seen women fight to get where we are now, but what about how far we have left to go? One area high school coach shows we are seeing history before our eyes.
Whitney Bowerman wrestled in middle school. When she went to Rogers High, there was no girls team.
I wish that there was that option for me, and to have that team around me would have been awesome. But I went to every wrestling match. I cheered on the boys. I really like watching wrestling, so I'd come to all the events.
So she made one as a coach, seeing growth not only at Rogers over the past 5 years, but the Greater Spokane League.
Every year I've really tried to learn And then also try to encourage, now I'm at the point where I can encourage other coaches, not just advocating for our girls on our team, but advocating for girls in our league because they don't get as much exposure as maybe other leagues, especially when it comes to postseason.
This season, the Rogers girls became the first ever GSL team to host a dual meet.
It was awesome to see the girls so excited to be able to be under the lights. You know, of course they were very nervous, but they were super excited. People were like, oh, there's girls wrestling. Like, they didn't even know that was a sport offered to them.
This sport may be lesser known in the area, but it's inclusive.
That's what I really like about wrestling is that, you could be any size or any weight, and we have a spot for you. And so I think that's something, too, to empower the girls. When you're a teenage girl, do you really want to step on a scale and announce to the world what you weigh? And I think that kind of takes it away from it because, so is the girl you're wrestling. It doesn't matter. No one cares.
The progress made so far has been quick and fun to watch, but there's still a ways to go.
Ideally, we would love to see true duels, just like the boys match.
Like other avenues in sports, athletic training was male-dominated. But at Eastern Washington University, 5 out of 6 of the trainers are women. Haley Hockley and Carly Digolo both followed in the footsteps of women they looked up to during their time as student athletes, female athletic trainers.
The most difficult thing was in the beginning, it was very intimidating, just knowing that this is a male-dominated field, and walking into that, it seemed a little scary at first, but then once I got going, I was like, okay, I can do this. If you're passionate about what you do, you can definitely have a seat at the table if you want one.
Over at Whitworth, the women's lacrosse team is the Pirates' newest varsity sport. Head coach Noelle Brouillard helped start the program back in 2017 and has seen not only the program grow, but the sport in the Inland Northwest. She started by asking students who had never played lacrosse before to join the team and says now as seniors, you couldn't even pick them out.
You can see somebody do something before you, it allows you to think that you can be them too. And so if you can see her, you can be her. And I think that's something that's always kind of resonated with me, and I want to keep paving that path too as a head coach.
Being in a newer program is so exciting. I feel like there's so much to build up to, and it gives us really cool goals. Last year we were able to set the goal of being the first team, one of the first 4 teams in the conference championship tournament, and we set that goal, and it was something that we were able to reach, which was so exciting. It was making history for our conference, but also for our team. It's the cooler version of lacrosse. It's women's lacrosse.
A lot of progress to be made, but plenty so far to celebrate. From the court to the mats to the pitch, hear from the history-making head of the newest pro franchise in Spokane. Stick around.
I'm here with president and owner of USL Spokane, Katie Harnato. Now, Katie, you are starting something here that has never been done before in Spokane. And the first professional women's team. How significant is that, and why was that such an important part of what you guys decided to do?
The opportunity to have a Division I women's professional soccer team in the town that we grew up in, to not only give jobs to women as players and athletes, but as coaches, assistant coaches, athletic trainers, was just something that we felt was our opportunity not only to give back to the sports community, but also for girls and young women everywhere to be able to see a path to being a pro in Spokane.
How important is that representation, in your opinion, not just for athletes and players, but for the coaches and the business side of things as well?
When you look at the number of young girls who start playing soccer and how many continue to play because there's enough teams, because there's a pathway, it falls apart. A really good example is we just launched our search for a women's head coach. We had 120 applicants and only 6 were women. There just isn't the opportunity for women to coach and to continue to play in the United States as much as there should be. So we have absolutely made that, a pillar of who we are and what we're doing and how we're going to go forward.
What are some of the responses that you've gotten from the community, whether it's from men or women, about the women's side of things specifically?
A little girl came up to me. She was probably 7 or 8 years old, and she told me she was going to play for me someday. And that was a pretty amazing feeling. I had a mom come up to me and say she had grown up in Europe, and all of her brothers had all played football they'd all play soccer, and her parents said, well, that's for the boys, that's for the boys. And so she said, thank you for giving my daughter an opportunity to see that it's not just for the boys.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, for what you're doing here in Spokane and the area, and for your time today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For more on our sit down with Katie Harnito and more on tonight's stories, go to swxlocalsports.com. It's not all just coaches and players. We can't forget about the fans. Plus, viewers show us the women in their lives who dominate in athletics. Stick around. Welcome back. We've discussed many Trailblazers who call sports their hobby, job, or passion. But what about the fans? For years, women have been criticized for simply liking and enjoying sports.
It's my dog right there. It's my girl, Callie.
Trinity McLaughlin is a school teacher. On Gonzaga women's basketball game days, she takes off early to sit in the seat she and her dad got 15 years ago for father-daughter bonding. They were going to see former Tennessee coach Pat Summitt. Her and her father agreed on the location of the seats in the corner where the team runs out. She wanted a good view to watch Kelly Graves coach. An occasional official herself, she wears a ref shirt to each game. That started when she disagreed with some calls a few years ago.
This has been an atmosphere where I can be myself. These girls come out and they come and it makes the heart of a little girl get inspired. And so that's where it all started for me. And now that I've been here for so long, some former players are now some of my closest friends and family. So it's home to me.
Thank you for listening to the stories of some of the women in sports in the Inland Northwest. But there's so much more of you than we could fit into this special. Our website has even more stories getting to know impactful women. That's swxlocalsports.com. And of course, to our viewers, we see you and celebrate you in your arena. For SWX, I'm AJ Howell. Have a great night.